It's interesting. You get credit because you've rebuilt some programs, and I think people want that here. It started with you calling this a developmental program, right? You spoke it into existence. We got to develop guys. So we got that down. But were there any downsides to having done this at so many places when you got here? Because sometimes, the repetitiveness can, well, I got this. We've done it before. Or is it, as a kind of a lifelong learner, you found ways to tweak it and take what you know has worked, because with some of the familiarity of your staff, and you still have to understand where you are and do it that way. And I think that'll lead us into my next question, which is your defensive coordinator. Like, what were the drawbacks, if there are any, to the fact that you've had success doing this at other places?
So I think the one drawback was the players were very concerned. They're like, Coach, you went to Temple, you guys went 2-10. You guys went to Baylor, you were 1-11. You didn't play the older guys, you played just the young guys. And that's why I said earlier, hey, I think this team already went through these challenges that you had to go through, because I saw the humility of Luke Reimer. I saw Garrett Nelson, how much he wanted to come back, even though it was completely right for him to go to the NFL. How much he wanted to say, like, you know what, I did it, I won here. Like, he had a sense of legacy. And so that was humbling. And so, but that's the hard part. They all expect, like, hey, this is how you've done it, like, to flip it. I'll just say this on a personal level, because when you say, like, hey, I've done it before, I've got this, I have nothing. I wake up scared to death every day that I'm not going to do right. I have a sense of urgency. And let me tell you something right now. My kids spent the last 3 years watching me struggle and watching me, fail. Like, it is what it is. Like, my kids came to the spring game and they probably had a little nervousness because the last football games they've been to, they've had, people in the stands chanting to fire me. Like, my sons are, like, we went out to eat and they're like, are we okay to go out to eat? Because we couldn't really go out to eat in Charlotte because we didn't know how people were going to treat me in front of my family. And we say, people in Charlotte have been great. But when you're going through it, it can be So yeah, there's no complacency. I can promise you. Like, I am at a whole other level in terms of what I want to get done. And the best thing that ever happened to me was happening to me in Charlotte. Because, like, so I took over in Charlotte. I took over for a very successful coach in Ron Rivera, who, gave to the SPCA, was a part of the community. People loved him. And I got there and there was COVID and no one ever saw me. And I saw then how when struggles happened, no one knew me. No one could connect with me. And so people were like, man, you're everywhere. Well, because I know how important it is that people see me not as the coach at Nebraska, but their coach, like, both for the good times and the bad times. And then I go out recruiting in the state of Nebraska, and I go to Scottsbluff, and we just stop in to get some wings before we go to Brock Newton's house. And we're at I think it's please forgive me, it's Skyline or Sky. It's a great tavern out there. And all of a sudden people are coming up to me and they're talking to me, and I can feel how much they need this. And then, man, we were sitting there the one day, and Jane Green was addressing the staff, and she's talking about all these moments in her life, her family's life, how they were so interwoven with Nebraska football. How, like, growing up, and maybe you grew up on a farm, maybe you grew up in a small town, and you couldn't always get to Lincoln, and you couldn't always see your aunts and uncles, but either around the TV or here, these great moments happened around this. Now, it's humbling. It's not like this everywhere. It's humbling. And so people will say, like, how are you handling the fishbowl? How are you handling that? I signed up for this because I want to be their coach. I want to be the state's coach. Sat wants to be the state's offensive coordinator. So I say all that to say, like, there's, like, everything that happens to us. That's why I said we learn from the past. We don't live in the past. Everything that happens to us puts us in these moments. And I come here completely humble, like I don't have it figured out, trying every day. That's why I go to Coach Osborne and say, tell me. I spent an hour this morning with Ron Brown, like, Coach, walk me through your old toss G play. Walk me through 31-39 sprint. Walk me through. You knew that one.
Yeah.
So, but, like, I'm not saying we're going to do those things. It's a blueprint, though. How did you guys do this? Because I'm scared to death. Not that I'm not confident, but I'm scared to death that I'm not going to put an honest day's work in. And so that's the unique thing. Like, some success doing it, no success at this place. Now you're here. I want to do it at the highest level. I want to get this place back to what it should be for the state. How do I do it? But also enough humility to say, please tell me, help me figure out how we do this.
So, which kind of brings one of the changes. We're looking at a lot of familiarity. Coops, a lot of your guys have been with you. Coach White, your defensive coordinator, has not. Brings a couple of his guys with him. getting out of your comfort zone, identifying talent.
I would say for me, because a lot's been made that I knew Tony, but not really. Like I knew him like as a guy and stayed in touch with him.
Yeah.
Um, but I think when you're looking at defense, okay, I think when you're looking at O-line coaches and you're looking at defensive line coaches, just show me the tape, show me the practice tape, show me the game tape. And I like the way Tony's guys played. You know, he's playing with a 240-pound end, he's playing with a 260-pound nose, and they're doing things that are disruptive. And then when I met with him and interviewed him, I could feel his humility, I could sense how smart he was, and he had answers. And I had a player say to me, Coach, does it make you nervous that we're going to run the 3-3-5 and no other team in the Big Ten does it? And I think the other way. I'm more of an outlier guy. Like, I'm so excited that we're going to be the only person doing this. And then I talked to Coach Osborne. He talked about running the option and how hard it was for people to get ready for them in 3 days. So I want to be different. I don't want to do what everyone else in the Big Ten's doing. That's safe, and I don't want to be safe. So, yeah, it's different for me, you know, and I have so much respect for Tony that I said, hey, the D-line coach is a former player of mine. The DB coach is a former player of mine. The linebacker coach is a former player of mine. Oh, and I'm going to add you in the room. Now, he brought a couple quality control coaches around and a great analyst in Kevin McGarry, and they've been awesome. They're not just his guys now, they're my guys too. But I've been excited. And his humility and his willingness to say, like, hey, I'll say, hey, we ran this package at Carolina. It was really good for us. Take a look at it. He's been really good at it. And I'll say this. I'm talking a lot. I'll shut up, I promise.
You're good.
Oh, well.
I got one more for you after you go.
But, like, I look at, like, hiring a new coordinator. I hired Joe Brady. I hired Ben Mack, the people I hadn't worked with. And you learn from your successes and you learn from your failures. And I made a decision with Tony as a new coach, instead of, like, going through a week and then being like, hey, Tony, why are we doing this? And why are we doing that? Just to let him do it. Like, just to let him, hey, put it in. Do what you do. Don't even worry about me. I'm not going to sit in a meeting. I'm not going to sit in a staff meeting. I'm not going to sit in a unit meeting. You do what you do. And every once in a while, I'll check in and say, hey, I got a couple questions. But, like, don't change. And going through the spring and doing that, now, not in terms of the way we practice, but just going through the spring and doing all that and giving him time to kind of put his whole vision together and letting him sit there, and then him working with Coop and those guys in terms of some of the things we did in Carolina, some of the things we did at Baylor, some of the things we did at Temple. Man, I've been so impressed. And then now that it's our defense, not his defense, I'm sure I'll have plenty of opinions and I'm sure I'll have plenty of things, but I gave him a chance to put it all in and for me to see it in its totality, and I didn't ruin his flow. And so I think the players look at him and they see that, hey, he's the DC. He's gonna right that ship. And so I learned from my mistakes and with other guys and try to do a better job this time.